Right, so we are at 45 people and it is 4 after the hour, 4 minutes after the hour. I'm going to get started. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm super excited to be here together with Deel as well as GitLab. You'll get to know them very quickly in person and close. So let me walk you through what we have planned for today. Let's see. First, we're going to start with a poll. So Charles, if you can pop that up and everyone can vote on the challenges that you see more pressing, that will give us an idea of, let's see, let me vote as well. Okay. Hiring, social interaction. Okay. Cool. Let me go back to this. Okay, yeah, this will give us an idea of what are the challenges that you guys are facing, and maybe we can direct the questions and answers towards those questions or those challenges. So let me do this. Okay, so these are actually the questions that I put together. They're a little bit different than what you have. I kind of put global remote hiring there at the end because we have Deel. This would be very relevant for you guys if you have some questions around this, and also global remote benefits. If you're hiring remotely, you're also going to have some challenges around benefits, what you offer to your team members. So maybe for E, you can pick this one, and then I'll know that this is something, or you can put it in the chat and the questions, and then we can look at those questions that are coming in. So I will start. Okay.
Lana, I'm going to go ahead and share the results real quick so everybody can see what they were. So 70% said maintaining company culture while growing. 60% said effective communication and collaboration. 40% said social interaction. 30% said hiring, and 23% said time off.
Okay, cool. So we know where to direct basically the attention. Okay, so my name is Lana. I am the head of revenue here at SafetyWing. I'm also a YC founder, Y Combinator founder, my own startup. I am an advisor to many different startups. I'm also an original remote worker. After college, I wanted to see the world, to travel to 195 countries of the world, depending who's counting. So I convinced my boss to let me work remotely so that I could, spend summers in Paris or go to places that I wanted to. At that time, it was something that was not normal at all, and he let me do it at the time, and I was the #1 producer, so I was able to do such a thing. But that led me to discover remote work at a very young age and fall in love with it. I was able to go to 80 countries of the world and still discovering more. I was able to learn about 7 languages, and I've lived in 4 different continents, so pretty much all over. And I love remote work. I'm a big advocate, so I will probably lean towards that in the questions today. Next, I will let our panelists, both Shu and Betsy, introduce themselves. If you ladies can turn on your camera, and maybe Shu, you can go first, and then Betsy, that would be fantastic.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for the invitation, Lana. It's very nice meeting you, and then Betsy as well. My name is Shu, co-founder and CRO at Deel. As well, I'm a YC founder, and then it has been a crazy year for all of us, 2020. And then I think let's keep the remote work culture rolling and moving forward. Yeah.
Cool. Betsy,
awesome.
do you want?
Yes, thank you. I'm excited to be here today. So thank you for organizing this. I'm Betsy Beulah. I'm an all remote evangelist at GitLab, and I'm based in North Carolina. And prior to this role, I spent a lot of my career on the employer branding side. So I'm passionate about the people hiring culture piece as well. So looking forward to the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Betsy. And let's go to the next slide. So just really fast, I just have 2 slides about SafetyWing and who we are and why we're all here. Us at SafetyWing, we're building a global social safety net for remote workers and distributed teams. What that means is that we offer this cross-border benefits with coverage in more than 185 countries. So basically, as your team is growing and you need to offer a benefits package, we would be the ones to help you guys with that. So we started with remote health, which is a fully equipped health insurance that works for companies that are hiring globally, and this lets your employees and contractors live and work wherever they want in the world. Whereas before, with traditional health insurance, you have to be in one place. It only covers you in one country. But now, as we're seeing that more and more people are traveling cross borders, post-pandemic, they want to be more nomadic. This is the only kind of like insurance that will allow them to live a life that they want wherever that is in the world. We're also adding remote doctor to the roadmap, as well as remote retirement and pensions, so they can save like a traditional 401k in the US. We're doing a global product that you can offer it to all your remote workers, as well as life insurance and disability, income protection, very cool things coming soon. So the opportunity that we all see is that remote work is here to stay. In fact, 74% of the companies are expected to work remotely post-COVID. What I've been reading lately from Bloomberg, as well as Forbes, was that employees are actually ready to quit before they give up remote work or work from home. So that was a very interesting thing that I'm reading. I don't know how you guys feel on this webinar, but I'm really excited to hear your questions, your thoughts. And with that, we will start the panel discussion with Betsy and Shu. I guess the first question, I have it prepared over here, is that, so what challenges are you seeing with remote work within your team, and how are you overcoming those? So maybe Betsy, if you want to get started with that, this could maybe be an interesting topic we can start, and then we can talk about how we, scale culture or keep it that way if we are remote.
Absolutely. So just to give you a bit of background about GitLab as well, we are one of the world's largest all remote companies. So we've been remote since 2015, which has really given us the opportunity to intentionally scale our culture and put things in place that allow our remote culture to thrive and our team to thrive in that setting. That said, this past year, has been unprecedented, for lack of a better word, when even a company like GitLab that has been all remote and has those processes in place faced a really unique challenge facing a global pandemic. So I think what's important to recognize is that these past 15 months have not been true remote work. It's been forced work from home during a global pandemic. So while we're fortunate that we were accustomed to working remotely already, our team was not used to being stuck at home, oftentimes with their kids or their significant others, or even for some people in total isolation. So part of that was probably the biggest challenge that we faced. And a part of GitLab's core values is that family and friends come before work. And so we, early on in the pandemic, our leadership team recognized that people were really struggling with isolation and burnout, and decided to be intentional about encouraging more time off, and really focusing on wellness and trying to, continue to be productive, but also, think of our team as whole people and with families and loved ones, and going through something really challenging. So even though we have unlimited PTO, people were not really taking it. And so our leadership team started something called Friends and Family Day, which we started over a year ago and have had one each month where the entire company closes their virtual doors, and everyone logs off for the day to do something with, something they love, something with someone they love, just to get away from the stressors of work in addition to everything else that's going on. So that really helped us be resilient through what has been an incredibly difficult time for really everyone in the company.
Sorry, and the Friends and Family Day, is it one day a month or a week?
Yes.
Or
it's
just
one day a month?
Day?
Yes, and we still that doesn't replace encouraging our team to really take advantage of unlimited time off as well. You know, we think our rest ethic is as important as our work ethic, and that's something that's documented in our company handbook, because it's just so important, especially during a time like this, to really take that time to you know, focus on what's important outside of work as well.
That's cool. And you guys don't have like, we at the SafetyWing have a minimum PTO, so like 20 days minimum. And
Yeah.
that forces people to take the PTO. You guys, I know that a lot of startups have unlimited, especially in Silicon Valley. It was very popular a few years ago to start offering that. But then it made it so no one would take off, or like the founders wouldn't take off. So basically it wasn't okay to take any PTO, even though you had unlimited. How do you guys, you know, handle that? Or
Yeah, that's a great point. I hear that all the time. That's something that we definitely try to combat in a number of ways. So we have part of our manager training is enabling managers to be able to check in and see how much time people have taken off. And if they haven't taken off a day in a certain amount of time, we encourage them to use different tools to kind of encourage that. So that's part of our regular weekly one-on-one check-ins with managers and team members, to be sure that they're asking questions that can kind of get to the bottom of why they may not be taking time off, whether they have too much on their plate and they think they can't. But like you mentioned something, Lana, that's important, that it starts at the top. So our leadership team has gotten really good lately, especially during the pandemic, about sharing what they're doing to take time off. So, you know, if our CEO is taking a week off and going somewhere with family, he says that and puts it out to the entire company so that everyone knows that here's an example of, even, you know, arguably the most busy person in the whole company is still taking that time. So it helps to see that example set from the top.
that's awesome. Sure, I'll pass it on to you since yeah.
Yeah, so I think that GitLab and Deel, we are both of us are like, you know, fully distributed, fully remote company since day one, but we're at a like a much early stage than GitLab, and then we're much smaller. So I think what I see as a problem right now is like a communication, effective communication across different like departments, right? So because you are remote, we hire people 100 right now. We have 170 people across 44 countries, and then like different time zones, you know, and then different culture, different work schedule, just make it communication really tough. And I think one of the solutions that we come up with is we make sure that, you know, we create hubs at different countries. So for example, we have a hub in London so that the people who work in Scotland, who work in England can meet together often in London. And then we have a hub in Tel Aviv, we have a hub in San Francisco, in New York, in Chicago, in Toronto as well, right? So we encourage people, and also we have teams in Latin America. We encourage our teammates, people to meet outside of work, to meet like more often offline, to maintain like a really good relationship, and then to keep up the culture as well. That's number one. Number two is that we tend to hire people in the same department within the same time zone. So for example, majority of our design team are based in London, majority of our engineering team are based in Tel Aviv or Eastern Europe, and then our sales team are based in US, and then marketing and growth team are majority of them are around East Coast. So like that will help. I would say like a go-to-market team can work together at the same time zone. Product and engineering team can build together at the same time zone. So that makes the company grow faster, and then operate at a faster pace. Yeah.
I think that's awesome. And also you mentioned something about Deel being small, but you guys hit like unicorn status, so you're worth 1.something billion now, which is great, and congratulations. Of course, GitLab is much bigger, but I'm sure you'll get there soon enough. But yeah, those are great points that you mentioned. I think maybe it's worth going into the first, I guess, challenge that most people have, which is maintaining company culture while growing. And maybe, you know, Betsy, you can share something. What are you guys doing at GitLab in terms of seeing what you can do to maintain that culture that you started while you're growing quickly all over the world, and, you know, maybe hiring remotely everywhere and you don't even meet these people? You know, how do you integrate them into the company? What, you know, what are the challenges, and then what have you found to work for you guys?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things for us is our documentation. We have a public handbook, so anyone, like I'll drop the link in the chat, but anyone can go search it and find it. It would be almost 10,000 pages, I believe, if it was printed. So it's a very, very comprehensive live document that's changing all the time, every day. And everyone at GitLab can contribute to it. So from day one, you have the ability to make a merge request in the GitLab tool and update the handbook. So it really kind of puts the responsibility of documentation into everyone's hands. And it means that we have everything from our processes to our culture documented. So one of the reasons that's been so helpful for our culture is that really your culture, especially in a remote environment, is equivalent to your values written down and how you live those out. So we have our 6 core values all documented in the handbook, and it has even substantiator values, sub-values under each one. So it really tells you sort of the behaviors that are associated with living out those values and what that looks like on a day-to-day basis. That's really helpful for our team, because especially as you're onboarding new people, you want to be sure they have access to all of the resources that they need and can easily, refer back to something. They don't have to try to like take in everything in one orientation and somehow remember that as they go through their career at your company. So it's been really huge for GitLab to be able to document everything in that one central source of truth. And then as we continue to grow, like I said, people are adding to that document. They're, as a new team forms, you have practices for that team that are clearly documented as well. And so it really keeps us connected as a whole team, and kind of breaks down some of those silos, because people can go easily reference another team's, handbook or the best way to reach them and things like that. But as far as our culture, there also is a huge piece of it that is centered around informal communication. So as a co-located team, if you have an office, you often run into people, or you have events that you will see someone at regularly, and you can kind of build relationships that way. Whereas in a remote company or a remote environment, you really have to be more purposeful about those interactions. And that's important for the leadership to be a part of, and to actually like build those formal settings for informal communication to happen. So one of the big things that we have outlined in our handbook is informal communication, and the number of ways that we keep the team connected and getting to know each other on a human to human basis. And that's been especially important in the past year, because I think people are wanting human connection more than ever. And so being able to do things like we had some team members create something called juice box chats in the last year, where we normally have coffee chats with 2 team members where they can just catch up and talk about whatever unrelated to work. But in this case, several people realized they had their kids at home, and they wanted them to be able to communicate and connect with another person. And so we set up juice box chats, which is when team members' kids can get together on a video call and get to know each other as well. So it just extends that net beyond just you as a coworker, and gets into you as a full human. And really enables people to feel like they belong at work and can be their full selves, which in turn makes them more productive and more, committed to your team. And it just really has infinite benefits once you're kind of letting people get to know each other on a deeper level.
Sorry, and the juice box, does that mean that you drink juice while you're connecting?
I think it was just fondly named that because instead of coffee, the children were likely drinking something different. So, but it was fun to be able to have, people of all ages connecting with each other during a time when everyone felt very physically isolated.
I love that name because I'm not a coffee drinker, so I just have like fresh squeezed everything that I can in the morning. So any time that someone can, either give me a fresh juice or give me the excuse, I'd be very happy with that.
I love it.
That's so cool.
Yeah, things like that really help as you're growing the company to, add new people and get them on board quickly and be able to scale your culture from there.
That's awesome. Thank you, Betsy. Shu, do you want to add to that?
I just want to say that the onboarding is one of our biggest challenge as well, and then as well as documentation. So we definitely are studying from GitLab to make a really good documentation, and then make sure that every single new hire that they got onboarded properly, and that they got wrapped up properly as well. And then similar with JuiceBox, we have something we call the donut moment. So basically you can use this program called Donut, and then you book a meeting with your colleague for 30 minutes, and then you can introduce each other, and then chat about life, about work, about what project that you're working on, and then we would sponsor them so that they can get a coffee, and then they can get donut or whatever juice that they want to drink. And then also we have game nights at Deel as well. So every single Thursday we have all hands meeting. We either have an all hands meeting or a product meeting. We would update the company what is going on product side, or what is going on with the newest change, or a progress or system that we have been building. And then right after that meeting, we would have a 1 hour game session. So we can either play sometimes we play draw something, or sometimes we create the different sub teams, we compete with each other. Sometimes we do a virtual escape room as well. So we create all of those small moments where small groups, so that everyone can get together, get to know each other more, feel they are a family, where they are more engaged while working together. Yeah, it's not only about work, it's about life, especially when you work from home, you work remotely, you don't see your colleague very often. So be able to meet virtually, be able to do something together, drink coffee, eat donut virtually is a great. It's such a small thing, maybe just 10-15 minutes every day, but people really like it. Yeah.
That's cool. And just to clarify for the listeners, the donut, are you using that through Slack? Because I know that Slack has this donut thing where it pings you to connect with certain people. Is that how you started it, or is it more of a different thing?
Yeah, exactly. That's where we got the name, that program, and then later on we said, yeah, we would sponsor donut, eating donut or eating cookie or a piece of pastry and a coffee is great idea. Let's just do it. Yeah.
That's cool. So then they can charge the coffee or the donut to the company and then have that time to connect.
Yeah, so for us, a little bit introduction or background on Deel. So we are a payment payroll platform, and then we manage payroll compliance or international payments for companies hiring globally, right? So through everyone is on Deel's payroll, so we just use our own product to manage payments to all of our employees, or in international independent contractors, whatever status they are, and then they will be able to add reimbursement on their own Deel contract directly. Yeah.
So cool. So they put their expense on there for the coffee chat on their Deel page, exactly. And then reimburse.
And then also we have a Deel card, Deel debit card. So every month we would give all of our employees $100 as health wellness spending, and then we just deposit $100 to their Deel card. They can use that money to do gym membership. They can use that money to take a day off, and then travel around, just whatever that they want to use that for. We'll be able to sponsor that, and then we just deposit that $100 to their Deel card directly, and then they can order a physical card. They can use it virtually online, spending the money whatever they want. Yeah.
Got it. And then if they don't use the money, the 100 for the month, does it go to the next month, or it gets deleted?
Cumulative, yeah.
It's cumulative. Okay, cool. That's really interesting. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, at SafetyWing, what we do is that documentation is key as well. We have everything in Notion. When we onboard everyone, we make sure that there's an onboarding checklist, so everyone knows kind of what to expect. We use these team meetings twice a week. So we do the big team meetings Mondays and Thursdays at a time that works for pretty much all time zones. The Asian time zone is a bit tough, so because everyone is mostly in Europe and the US, and it's tough to make all 3 time zones work. But yeah, that works pretty well for us. We also have these team gatherings at least 3 to 4 times a year. In early September, we'll be in Slovenia for a week with all of the team members, and that will be a lot of like team building exercises and spending a lot of time together, getting to know each other, because during this time, during the pandemic, like we pretty much hired sight unseen everyone. So, oh, sorry, that's a church bell in the background. That, and also we're doing this virtual gatherings as well. So this weekend we have one, oh, Thursday and Friday we have one as well, and that should be fun. But let me mute.
Similar as us, like, for the past year, we grow Deel from a team of 25 to right now almost 170. So majority of the team I have never met. And then I really hope that we can have a team retreat somewhere after the pandemic, after the world opens up. But what we are doing right now is every single team, they can plan their own retreat. Like, for example, our EMEA sales team or like customer success team, like, because they work together every day, and then all of our like team members from the client facing team, they would get together and then they can travel to Greece, for example, for 10 days, and then work together and then meet each other. Yeah, so those are another model that we're trying out right now. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, we had something similar where part of my team came out here to Albania, where I'm at the moment, and it was really fun. We had some really cool kind of like hiking and climbing and really fun things in nature, and that was really, really cool. I hope I can do that with my entire team. Just in the sales team, we have like 13, and that would be fun. So great, we can go maybe to the next questions, because I'm sure everyone wants to hear all kinds of things. Maybe the next thing could be the effective communication and collaboration. So that's a challenge that most people have. What are you guys using in terms of tools or things that you're doing that helps with that communication and collaboration to kind of enforce and yeah, host that? Maybe Betsy.
Sure. Yeah. So for GitLab, well, I'll take a step back. It's so exciting to see there are so many cool tools and technologies coming out for remote teams. And it's, if we didn't have these, we would not be having this conversation right now. So it's really cool to see as it continues to develop all the new technologies coming out to support remote work. And the biggest thing for our team is that, every company is different, and we want to be sure we're funneling our communications to as few channels as possible, so that it's simple for our team members to know what goes where, and you're not fragmenting work across too many tools, or at least for communication. So for example, we use the GitLab tool for project management. So any meaningful work or documentation and things like that happen in the GitLab tool. And that way there's always a sort of record of each project that was done, or every decision that was made, either there or in our handbook. And then we use things like our chat tool, we use Slack, and we use that for informal communication and relationship building and just, chatting as a team. And we really try to keep meaningful work discussions out of Slack. That way you're not, trying to go through different conversations and search for work that was done weeks ago and try to remember what decision was made and why. So that really helps us to kind of funnel things into the right places. And the way that our team knows that is because we've documented, here's the tool that we use for this, here's why we use it, here's what to do with it. So from onboarding, you're able to see that and understand how we use different tools, which is really helpful. I think we have to kind of keep ourselves honest with it. We do have a kind of forcing function where we delete all Slack messages after 90 days. So it's set that way in order to force us to put our meaningful discussions into the GitLab tool or into the GitLab handbook. So we have to do some things like that to sort of keep us honest, but that really helps us, grow as a team and scale the tools that we're using. But communication wise, the other huge piece for our team functioning well, and I'm sure many remote teams are familiar with it, is we have a bias for asynchronous communication. So we really try to eliminate unnecessary meetings and communicate in a way that allows you to pass work across time zones without having to figure out, like we talked about, getting on a call all the time to kind of update the whole team when they might be spread across 4 different countries. So that piece is really important for us, and it also it has a huge impact on productivity when you're not spending your entire day in back-to-back meetings. It's also just more inclusive. People have different productivity peaks and different needs outside of work that they may need to not be online during a certain window of hours. And so really embracing asynchronous communication has allowed us to let our team members sort of fit work in around their lives instead of having work dictate everything about their lives. So that's one that we really leaned on this past year. And again, we have to do things to keep ourselves honest. So we've started something recently called Async Week, where our team will try to eliminate all synchronous meetings for a whole week. And it kind of reminds you how freeing it is to have those long work blocks to really concentrate and get lots of things done. And it also kind of gets you back into that practice of documenting well enough that the next person that wakes up in a different time zone and is trying to pick up that project knows exactly what happened in overnight hours for them. So async is something that we highly recommend other teams try, and it really does help with that time zone.
It's really cool. Can I dig in more into the async thing, because we also really believe in that? Do you guys have a week, a month, or a week, a quarter that you're like async?
So we haven't, again, like theoretically, the whole company should be defaulting to that, but the async week is really something that we let each team determine like which week they want to choose. And it actually works well to not have everybody on the same schedule, because it reminds other teams to try to not default to just throwing 30 minutes on the calendar, because that seems like in small, doses that it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but it does add up to really not being respectful of other people's time. If you're just taking someone's time for something that you could send, in a message or, document in an issue in GitLab and things like that. So, but again, it goes back to documenting those norms, because that's not something that a lot of people, especially from a co-located company, are accustomed to. So we do have to kind of lay out, here's how you, even down to here's how you can politely decline a meeting if you don't think it's a good use of your time. So we encourage that and want team members to believe that that is actually more respectful of everyone else's time, not, something that's frowned upon or uncomfortable to do. But it takes some practice.
That's interesting, because Sam, our head of growth, he started this thing called meeting sabbatical for like a week. So it's funny, like you guys call it asynchronous week, and then he called it the meeting sabbatical.
Yes,
and
it's wonderful.
It worked really well for him, because he was getting overwhelmed with a ton of meetings every day.
Right, and there's definitely a important balance to strike between synchronous and asynchronous. It's not always going to be possible to be async. We tend to say that, especially for something like a kickoff meeting to a project, it's great to have a sync meeting for something like that, because you can sort of build rapport with the rest of the team, and use that time to kind of create those relationships that will help you work async later on. So there are certainly moments where you're going to need to have a meeting, but we just really try to reduce those as much as possible to be more productive.
Cool. Shu, do you want to add?
Yeah, definitely. I learned a lot. I learned a lot. I think that is very, very cool, and we definitely need to try that internally with our team. So what I have been trying to make our team do at the very beginning, everyone's on Slack, right? So when you're a 30 people team, Slack is cool, like everything, all the information that you can just search on Slack. But the thing is, when we're at 50 people, it got complicated. It is like it creates so much friction, and then people will say, oh, I shared with you this two weeks ago, why are you still asking me that? So it's like, but there's no proper documentation. Probably documentation is a great idea, let's start to do that. And then later on we leverage like Notion a lot. We create all the really good pages on Notion to make sure that everything is documented properly. We even have like a manager dedicated, like majority of their team are on Notion to make sure that everything is documented properly. For me, myself, I tend to make my team to create Jira ticket for me. If they need something from me, and then they can tell a message on Slack, that is no problem. But I always want them to create a Jira ticket. So by the end of the day, after all of my meetings or of my work, I will be able to sit down and then create and solve those Jira tickets for them, right? So sometimes, and then also all of those Jira tickets can be documented as well. And then if another manager has a similar problem or similar question, I can just share what I have done previously. And then
Awesome.
that is one thing. And then another thing is that I tend to schedule all of my individual meetings in Slack. Like, I would say like a Monday afternoon, I would meet with head of success, head of sales, head of growth, head of expansion, and then back to back. And then Monday afternoon will be my weekly individual meetings with all of my direct reports. And then I also suggest all of the managers to do the same, and it becomes very efficient. So basically, instead of a schedule like a 30 minutes on Monday, 30 minutes on Wednesday, 30 minutes on Thursday, you just stack it and then block the entire afternoon and then meet everyone and then catch up, and then you are free to do the work for the rest of the week. Yeah.
I do the same. And Shu, in your team, do you meet one-on-one? Do you do the one-on-ones every week or every other week? Or
I do it every week. I do every week. Yeah,
wow.
because then, yeah, so it can become a lot of time, very time consuming, but I tend to make the meeting very efficient. Sometimes it's just like, 20 minutes and then that's it. And then I will prepare agenda, and then the managers will prepare agenda as well. Yeah.
And then you just go through the points and then you're done.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
We do the once a week one-on-ones, or that's the suggestion as well, just because that is such a valuable way to spend synchronous time, connecting with your direct reports and vice versa, and being able to, check in and really get an idea of whether someone's experiencing burnout or like there's something else that needs to be unblocked or solved. So that's, I think it's an important way to spend one-on-one.
And how many do you have, Betsy, in terms of like direct reports and Shu? So like how many meetings does it translate for you with the one-on-ones each week? So for Shu, like how many direct reports do you have? Is it like 10, 15, 20, and you have 20 meetings on Monday?
Right now I have about 7. Soon next week will be 8. Yeah, so okay. 30 minutes, 20 or 30 minutes each, and then we'll just entire Monday afternoon. And also some of them are in Europe, some of them are in the States, and some of them are in Latin America. So I tend to meet meet all of them on like until later at night as well, where like Sunday afternoons when Europe just first started their Monday morning. Yeah, to save some time.
That's cool. Yeah, I have 13 direct reports, so it's a lot to be meeting every week. So I do every other week, but it's just a lot of people. I think I read the ratio for manager to direct reports. I think it's 7 at max. So then you max out at 7 as the manager. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where Shu will go to as you guys are growing. If you're gonna, because you'll be 8 next week, and then I can imagine by end of the year you might be at 20.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I'm thinking about that as well. Like I'm constantly thinking and then trying to build a really good system. Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, I just what I would add from SafetyWing's perspective is that what we use in collaboration is we found this tool called TeamFlow. I don't know if you guys know about it, but it's basically a virtual office, and that's where we have all of our meetings. And it's been really great to collaborate with everything there because you can share a screen, you can open like a scratch pad, you can write notes and it'll stay there. But it's been really awesome to kind of like feel like a team when you go into there. There's like different rooms, like the sales team will have their own area and we can just hang out there, do our one-on-ones on there. And it seems a lot more like you are part of the same thing versus being out there in the ether. So yeah, that's That's pretty cool. I guess maybe we can open up to some questions from everyone, because I do have lots of questions that I can go through, or challenges, but maybe do you guys want to write up something, or should I go to the next thing, which is social interaction, that 40% of you had a challenge with? Maybe I'll give it like a minute for maybe someone to type a question, and it'll give us about, what, 15 minutes to discuss questions. I don't think I can see the question, so maybe Charles, let me know if you. Oh yeah, I don't see.
Yeah, there is one question in here. I can just read it off here. Are there resources that you can share to help us build similar tools like your handbooks? As a small nonprofit, I don't have budget for help instituting ideas like these, but I love a lot of your practices. Just so any resources that y'all have for the audience.
Yeah, so I can start. GitLab, like I mentioned, has documented all of our remote practices, and we have more than 50 guides as part of our all remote guide at this point. So I'd really encourage you to check that out. You can find all of them hosted under the URL allremote.info. And on that page, you'll see all of the 50 remote guides, as well as a remote playbook that we just recently came out with. And the remote playbook basically condenses all 50 of those guides into one single resource that kind of gives you an overview of how to put some of these practices in place. And it's going to be helpful whether your team is, anywhere on the remote continuum. So if you're, just starting out and trying to build an all remote team, or if you're considering going back into the office or somewhere in between, all of these remote first practices will be helpful to implement on your team and make you more agile as a team and better able to scale and grow.
And Betsy, is that like a inexpensive way for them to do this? Because I don't know what the cost is for GitLab. I don't know what the cost is for Notion either, but maybe Shu, do you know? Maybe it's not expensive at first. Yeah.
I think Notion has startup package as well. I think they do have a nonprofit package probably as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know the details on that piece, but I know that they're really, as far as starting a handbook, it doesn't really matter where you're documenting that information, as long as it's one single source. So we always recommend companies that are getting started and don't have the budget to even purchase a tool, is to start in a place that's accessible to all your team, even if it's like just a shared document, a Google Doc or something like that. And start there, document some of the processes that you often find yourselves like talking across, different coworkers to see how you've historically done, interviewing, for example. Any process that you do that people ask about, or that you need to onboard people to, or somehow explain, document those, document why you do it, and just start with one thing, and then that way it'll start building and you can continue to scale it from there. And then as you have budget, you could invest in something that is a little more robust to build a real handbook. But I think just getting those processes and policies in place in writing is probably the most important piece as you're getting started.
That's awesome. I think that's a good answer. Charles, do you want to read maybe the next one? Or?
Yeah, I got a couple more here. Love the insights and energy. It's refreshing to hear companies really focusing on culture. What would you advise companies that are embarking on this journey? So just kind of getting started with focusing on culture. Could we talk to that just a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, do you want to go, Betsy? And I can also go.
Sure. Yeah, that's great. I think, again, as you're getting started, one of the most important things we talked about earlier is documenting your values, because that's something that has an impact on literally everything that you do. So once you're hiring people, you're going to want to have already determined those values so that you know that you're bringing in new team members who can see themselves living out those values as well. It impacts the decisions that you make as a business. It impacts the decision you make for employees. And even the type of benefits that you want to offer to employees. It really filters into every single thing that you do as a team. So starting with those as your foundation is probably the biggest piece of advice that I would have. And again, documenting them so that other people can see them. Another thing as you're growing is the hiring process, making sure that that is documented as well. Because if you think about it, you don't want there to be this mystery around the process to get hired at your company. You want the interview process to be focused on whether you are a fit for the, or you would be a great addition to that company, and whether it's something that you actually want to pursue. You don't want the candidate to be spending their time trying to figure out like the logistics and how an interview typically is set up and things like that. So we're very careful to be upfront about those things so that it removes the mystery from the process and allows people to focus on whether that mutual fit is there. So I think the hiring process is something that companies have really had to figure out in the last year, because a lot of people who were hiring in person and kind of depending on physical things like your office or your perks or the location of the office have had that all stripped away, and so they've had to figure out how to really define and hone in on what makes their culture unique and be able to get that across to candidates. So that's another piece that as you grow, you're going to want to be able to lean back onto those values that you've defined from the start and be able to scale your team that way.
That's great. Shu, do you have anything to add or for the?
That is that we're still trying to figure out at the Deel. First, it's just because like we have been growing so fast from 30 super early stage startup to right now 170 people. There are a lot of things, a lot of process that we're still trying to figure out, and then definitely learn a lot from this conversation, learn a lot from Betsy. Yeah.
That's cool. Actually, for us, I love the culture here at SafetyWing, and I come from the Silicon Valley culture where it's like work until you die kind of place. And I just, when I first met the founders, they had this idealistic way of thinking about culture, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. I'm like, I wonder if it really works that way, because once you get into the company, then you see everything breaking, or maybe just like everything exploding from within. And so far, like knock on wood, it's been pretty amazing, because the founders really believe their values and the mission that they've put in writing. And that really permeates throughout the whole company. And it really makes you feel good to be part of something where what they say is what they do. And I just feel, really great being here, because as a founder myself, I wouldn't be happy with just like any place. It has to be a very, very special place for me to be working there as a YC founder. Otherwise, I can start, lots of other companies, have many, many options. So it's been really cool to see that culture really permeate everything that they do. And now we hired someone as head of culture. So he's really cool and trying to put a lot of things in place, which I think are going to be great. But what I heard in the podcast of Building Remotely is that culture has to be kind of like taught every so often. So I think weekly there has to be either like things on culture or somewhere where people can go and like really get that lessons. Otherwise, it could be difficult to really figure out from like what's written down somewhere, or maybe going back to the mission and vision every week. So it's cool to have these lessons I was hearing at the guest. So it'll be interesting to see how we grow and how the culture grows. But that's a good question, Dom. Thank you.
I just want to add one more thing, and another thing is that right now, something that I promote internally at Deel is respect, because we do have so many global international teams, employees across like 45 countries right now at Deel, and then everyone speaks a little bit different language, everyone's from a different background, and then they have their own culture, they have their own religions. Like we respect, and then we let our team know that we got to respect each other, and then we so that we can work and act as a family, as a group. Yeah, and then that's number one. Number two, I think what we just like think of or come up is what we value most is caring. How we take good care of our teammates, how we take good care of our clients, our customers. I think is rather important. Yeah.
That's such a great point. And Lona, you mentioned something about leadership too. And I think, you know, like we talked about with taking time off and recognizing burnout, leading in a way that reinforces your values is equally important, because that's what will, you know, signal to your team how they should actually be acting. Because that's this huge piece. You know, you talk to people in interview process and you tell them all this great stuff about your company, and they're like, well, is that actually how it works once I join, or is this just a tactic to get me to, you know, continue in the interview process? So I felt the same way at GitLab. It was such a pleasant surprise and a breath of fresh air to join and hear our CEO in his regular meetings mentioning our values and saying, no, we're not going to do this because that goes against our, you know, efficiency value or whatever it may be. We have actually a CEO shadow program where anyone in the company can, for 2 weeks, sign up to shadow the CEO in every one of his meetings. And it is a fascinating program. I was so fortunate to be able to do it last year. And it was one of those moments that kind of reinvigorated me, because I realized that truly in every single one of his meetings, Sid, our CEO, was mentioning the values. It was not just something that we have like words on a page. It was something that he was bringing up in order to make huge business decisions. So kind of being able to have that foundation and having it start at the top and then continue to be, as you mentioned, reinforced in everything that you do and every type of meeting, really helps build that practice that enables you to kind of scale and not have, you know, everyone's going to have growing pains. That's completely normal and expected, but being able to fall back on your values when there are those uncomfortable times is the best way to go.
Cool. I think we have 5 more minutes and there's 2 more questions, I think, Charles. Do you want to read both or one so we can address them?
Yeah, we can kind of quickly go through these. Yeah, so the next one is, do you have any other platforms that you recommend for managing one-on-ones?
And then we'll put the last one as well, just because otherwise it's going to end.
So I'll just start and be quick about this. We're very traditional with one-on-ones, I guess. We use Zoom as we do all of our video calls. And then with all of our meetings, one-on-ones, you know, company-wide meetings, small group meetings, whatever it may be, we have an agenda for every single meeting. So we try to have live doc agendas where you're taking notes actively as you're talking, so that even if someone misses the meeting, which, you know, we encourage people to decide which meetings they do and do not think are a good use of their time at that moment, they can see the notes from the agenda afterwards or contribute beforehand and be able to kind of contribute asynchronously. But in one-on-ones, it helps because you have this, you know, live documentation of everything that's been brought up. And if you need to go async for one of your one-on-ones 1 week because you're traveling or, you know, whatever the reason might be, you can actually contribute to that document just in the same way that you would if you were also on Zoom at the same time. So we use kind of a combination of our, you know, communication tools to make this one-on-one.
Who takes the notes?
Either person. So we kind of share that responsibility. And you know,
it goes into like a Google Doc, or where do you document it?
Okay. Yeah, so that it's, you know, live editable, everyone can see what's happening at the same time.
So you have multiple Google Docs for each week's meeting. So like you have one-on-one today with Betsy, you know, June 15th.
The same document. So my one-on-one with my manager is, you know, Betsy and Darren one-on-one, and it has the whole history of every one-on-one we've ever had. So it's a cool way to be able to look back to and, you know, see, you know, old notes and things like that and check in on things. And that's really the way that we approach it.
That's awesome.
That's exactly the same as I am doing and managing the one-on-ones right now. Have an agenda, document everything, and then use the same template. And then all the individual meetings are in one place, and then we will be able to go back and track the history. Yeah.
We do, in case it's helpful, we have if you search GitLab handbook one-on-one, you will find a template that we've published in our handbook that other people can use if it's helpful.
Yes, that's cool. Will you type that in maybe in the
Yeah, I'm
chats?
actually not able to add to the chat to the whole group. It's only letting me do it to organizers. So I may need someone else to send it out, but it would be under that allremote.info has, access to the whole handbook. So you can also Google GitLab handbook and any of those links will pop up.
Cool. And we have like 2 more minutes. And last question, what are some things you do to keep employee morale high when working fully remote? So to keep morale high. I think for us, it's like, virtual retreats, doing things that you want, and then having the team gatherings, as well as allowing them to work whenever they want, wherever they want, kind of thing, asynchronously. And of course, having to be in the 2 meetings every week. But I think giving them the freedom to do the work that they love from wherever that is, whatever time zone, it makes them really give the most to the company, in my opinion. But
absolutely, I agree with that. I think the biggest thing for us is also recognizing that people have so much outside of work in their lives, and so allowing them to commit that time whenever it may be to getting work done, and then spending the rest of their day with their family or in their community or doing a hobby that they love. That's really going to keep morale higher than any virtual happy hour we do, even though those are important as well. But balancing those in-person interactions when you can post-pandemic, and then also the virtual with recognizing that people are whole people and have lots outside of work as well. So it's a great point.
Yeah, very good. That's awesome. Sure, if you don't have anything to add, we should thank everyone, and we will send out the slides. We will send out information, what Betsy said, what Shuo, if they want to include something about Deel and GitLab. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. It's 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock in Europe. It's 1 o'clock Eastern time, and I'll let you continue your day and be respectful of it. So thank you, Betsy. Thank you, Shuo. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. It's great to talk with you all. Have a good one.
Have a good one,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.